He's on the ropes. He's spinned off the ropes. He's moving around now and he's getting a little bit of a rhythm. He finally got that second win. Can't be stopped.
Round coming to a close. Hands up, defense, side step, 1, 2, please. Don't know how to extend. It's the endurance test. The real fight begins. Take a walk to this corner. Come get your second win.
Welcome to the Second Win Boxing Media. I'm your host, Rashid Hammond, and alongside
it's your boy Caesar Fantastic. And a little backstory. Me and she was talking a little boxing like we do, and he asked a question about who's the greatest heavyweight, do you think? And I was, for some reason, first person came in my head was Lennox, but I'm like, is that blasphemy? And she was like, shit, I agree. He said he probably is thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, damn. So, you know, I said, all right, let me get into it, and we'll go back. Story. Accolades, record, everything. And I'm like, dang, is this true? You know what I'm saying? Like, dang, Lennox is low-key the best ever. You know what I mean? Like, then, you know, I asked him, like, why do you think nobody gives him credit like that? And see what you say.
Man, I think it's because he's from somewhere else. I think he's from overseas. He's not American. He wasn't born and raised in the United States of America. That's my only thing I could come up with.
Yeah, that might be the only reason. So let's dive into it. Let's go.
Yes, indeed.
Why are we feeling this way?
Man, first of all, we're gonna start out with most United States fighters and Americans will get is being a gold medalist, a super heavyweight champion in 1988. So that's his first accomplishment, defeating heavyweight champion Riddick Bowe in that same tournament. Secondly, in my opinion, which makes him the greatest, is size. That's one. Size compared to other eras, because I've already been challenged to the other eras. George Foreman was the boogeyman of the 70s. And those that know, in my opinion, will be one of the greatest and most competitive eras of the heavyweight division may have been the 70s. Might be wrong. That's another topic, another debate. George Foreman was the dominant heavyweight in the 70s. Everybody feared him. Somebody else brought to my attention, said, but what would he do with Joe Frazier? I said, Joe Frazier technically got destroyed by a big heavyweight, which was considered big in the 70s. And that fight, he weighed under George Foreman. George Foreman weighed lighter than Joe Frazier. I think George Foreman weighed 225 that fight, if I'm not mistaken. We'll fact check it later, but destroyed him, treated him, beat him. He dropped him 7 times that fight. It was about 7 or 8 times. It was a lot of knockdowns. And George Foreman was a bigger heavyweight, not with a dominant jab as Lennox Lewis had, dominant right hand. George Foreman could crack, but Lennox Lewis could box and crack. He can jab, etc. Also, my conclusion also came to revenging every defeat. So he defeated every opponent he faced in the boxing ring. He defeated them. He avenged his one draw, beating the multi-champion Evander Holyfield at easily beating Holyfield. Holyfield was beat so bad he said he wanted to quit. And the only person that was his rival in terms of they saying that had a chance was Mike Tyson, and he destroyed Mike Tyson, beat him easily. Also worthy opponents, man. If you look at it, names I was looking on here, like, usually in this era and what we're used to, this era and the eras before, sometimes mainly like this era, where everybody don't fight everybody. This man fought all of them. Tour, Frank Bruno, Ray Mercer, Mike Weaver, Tommy Morrison, Shannon Briggs, Michael Grant, Mike Tyson, Oliver McCall, Hakeem Rockman, and the Holyfield, and Razor Ruddock. Razor Ruddock was one of the hardest punchers they considered in boxing. Mike Tyson said he hit like a kicking mule. Exactly. Lennox Lewis destroyed him in 2 rounds. So you got to look at this. And then when Lennox Lewis get in there, he don't just box the hell out you. He tries to take heads off, man. And doing it in a very skillful manner, though. It was all technique, all fundamental boxing for him was an all-time great. I mean, fundamentally sound. Riddick Bowe, in my opinion, personally ducked him on purpose, and I like Riddick Bowe, and I think Riddick Bowe would have been the only fighter that would have gave him problems, because Riddick Bowe was fundamentally sound and a big heavyweight who was a problem as well. So I think Riddick Bowe should have fought him as well, man. So Sean, I know you gonna dive deep, man. So man, what makes you think Lennox Lewis is the greatest heavyweight of all times?
I mean, saying a lot of things you said. It was the gold medal. You know what I mean? Starting out with the gold medal. He's 3-0, 3-0-1, should be 4-0 against Hall of Famers. You know what I mean? So it's not like he ain't fight people who were, you know what I mean, of that caliber. So should be 4-0, because that draw was ridiculous to me.
Right.
15-2-1 in title fights. Should be 16-2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's stuff like that. I go through the laundry list of people like that he fought. Like, okay, so came out, he beat Ruddock, then he beat Tony Tucker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go on, then he winds up losing a couple fights later to McCall when he avenged that loss. Okay, on his way to avenging that loss is Tommy Morrison, Ray Mercer. Beat them, and then he went back for McCall, wanted his strap, right? Got McCall up out of here. Then he went Henry Akwande. He was an undefeated fighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
32-0. Took him out 5 rounds. At that point, I think Akwande was like the mandatory. So at that point, he had a voluntary shot, right? Who he choose to fight? Andrew Galata.
Right.
The dude who just beat Riddick Bowe. You know what I mean? The dude he been chasing all these years. So chose to fight Galata, got him up out of here. Shannon Briggs, got him up out of here. Zelko Mavrovich, he was undefeated, 27-0. Got him out of here. Then he went for Holyfield. Really got him up out of here, but they,
Yeah.
things happened. Went back at Holyfield, and Holyfield wanted to quit on the stool.
Right.
Went to a boogeyman, Michael Grant, who was supposed to be the next thing smoking. I remember hearing stories about Michael Grant back then, like, oh, Lord, he going to be the next one. Okay, cool. Lennox got him up out of there.
Right.
Knocked him down 3 times in the first round. Ended it in the second. Franz Botha, got him. David Toole was Baby Mike.
Yeah.
Baby Mike Tyson. Now I remember that fight, man. Lennox, because Toole only had the the left hook, or right hook.
Yeah, he was known for the right hook, the left
That right
hook,
hook, the left hook. Yeah,
left hook. Yep,
had that left hook, and Lennox just kept that right hand up on his chin,
yep.
and he couldn't do nothing. I'm like, yeah. But it's the smarts, it's the boxing ability. The dude can do anything in the ring. He could box with you, he could slug with you, he could do anything. Just the he was versatile. He had every tool you can have. You know what I mean? Especially for heavyweight. In boxing, the after tour got caught slipping by Rockman, went back, avenged that in full. Then you go Mike Tyson and ended off with Klitschko with all the straps. Like,
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy because it seems blasphemous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, man.
Because all you hear is stories. All you hear about is Tyson,
Tyson,
Joe
Holyfield,
Lewis, Holyfield, all these guys,
Ali.
Muhammad Ali being the greatest after being the GOAT. But it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's for nobody to ever put Lewis in that thought is that's blasphemous to me. It's like, man, give that man his respect, give him his credit. Like, the dude did what he had to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Everybody he beat, he defeated everybody that he faced.
Beat everybody.
Everybody that he faced, and he also he won. Like, if you look at some of the guys that he beat, he was destroying 2 rounds, 4 rounds, 6 rounds. He was getting most of them guys out of there, man. He was getting the most out of there. And I say this, Sean. Now, I won't say of all eras, right? I would say of that era, because we got another topic I think we'll do eventually. Oscar De La Hoya, it's a up in the air between him and Oscar De La Hoya, in my opinion, of having one of the most accomplished resume of fighters that they fought. Oscar De La Hoya definitely is in that top category, in my opinion, in terms of like facing some of the greatest fighters of an era, coming out the gate, But Lennox Lewis, in terms of heavyweights, is not that far off, in my opinion, from having that opposition in terms of fighting, because he fought everybody that was somebody in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, he fought, and then of multiple eras, like, because Klitschko was all it was in his era, so he fought.
yeah. Klitschko was, that, and that came up in a debate for some people, like mentioning Klitschko as being having the longest reign, but I think that was the most longest graveyard era of heavyweight division. Yeah, it was a diminishing at time when heavyweights was at an all-time low. The resurrection of heavyweights came back between what's going on now between Wilder and Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, and those guys have resurrected the heavyweight when it was down held by
Klitschko and Berman Stavern had a belt.
Yeah. when Klitschko had it, and it was a sigh of relief when Anthony Joshua defeated him. We was like, now the heavyweight division can open back again. And that's what exactly happened, a little better than, it's not the Lennox Lewis and Holyfield, Riddick Bowe and Galata and all of them era. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely a better era than the Klitschko in them era, in my opinion.
And then to get back on that, do we give him credit for ushering in UK boxing?
Yeah, hands down.
You know what I'm saying?
He created a domination of a dominant UK, but he was so great as a UK fighter that you tend to forget he was from the UK.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's like you gotta give him, like, it's like Joshua, all them guys like that. Remember back then, we thought, like, we envisioned UK fighters as that super high up here guard. like just straight jab, jab.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
like,
they would. Yeah, yeah.
it was like that's what we envisioned them. And then when Lewis came over, and you seen like, oh nah, these dudes,
Yeah, they
can
fight.
scrap. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like, yeah, you got to give him credit for that. And like we said earlier, he's only 3 heavyweight champions have ever defended all their losses. It's Lennox, Rocky Marciano, and Ingemar Johansson.
And Rocky Marciano's era is nowhere in compare. He fought everybody doing their diminishing, leaving the sport of boxing, and a lot of them heavyweights that he fought was on their way out. Archie Moore and Joe Louis, that is when he was older, and Archie Moore was way older. And all them guys he fought during their times. Now, Lennox Lewis, a different situation. All them guys he defeated was his age. Him and Mike Tyson are, but who older? Mike Tyson's older than Lennox Lewis, correct?
Nah, Lennox
Lennox
got
older.
Tyson.
I'm sorry, Lennox got Tyson. That's right.
Lennox got Tyson by almost a year, like 9 months.
Right. Holyfield is older than him about 3 years.
Got him about 3 years, yeah. But you know, I mean, you can't say none of them like was old though. Like,
exactly. And then and now this is what's gonna happen. It's like what we're gonna do now is do what we know we're gonna see in the comment section. Probably they're gonna throw some names out there like Ken Norton fighting Lennox Lewis. I think Lennox Lewis would jab his head off.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest, considered the greatest athlete ever, Muhammad Ali. Nice jab, too small. That right hand would have stopped him, I think. Joe Frazier, the jab would have frustrated him, and those right hands would have hurt him. Who else out there? And Larry Holmes would have probably been his greatest opposition.
Larry, yeah, because that jab Larry had
a serious jab, man. That would have been a different situation. If Larry would have been a problem for him. Now that's something to think about. Larry would have been a problem for him. Now somebody's going to say, well, Mike Tyson defeated Larry Holmes. Mike Tyson defeated older Larry Holmes. The Larry Holmes in the 70s, and if Mike was in the 70s, had a problem. In my opinion.
Say, well, Mike was old. Mike said, man, I wouldn't have beat him no matter what.
No matter what.
They sparred when they was in junior Olympic, like in amateur Olympic thing. And they say Lennox went in first day. He wasn't really trying to do too much. You know what I'm saying? He just did sparring. Mike was dead serious, and Mike got out on him, right? Say, Lennox coach was like, we could go home. We could, kick it, chill. We don't got it. We could come back another time,
Right.
And it's like, oh, nah, I know what I got to do. Went in the next day, gave Mike all the work he wanted, man.
See.
Right. And that's why Mike said early in his career, he was like, nah, I ain't want to fight Lennox, man. Lennox cool. Mike ain't want to fight him, but, eventually he fought him.
He fought him, right. He didn't want that.
But Mike said, man, I probably never would have beat that dude.
Beat that man.
He's just too big, too fast, too strong.
Too strong.
And his jab is mean. Like, that's coming from Mike himself. You got other people like how he used to hold form and say, man, nah, you got to put him in that category.
Yeah, George Foreman said he was the greatest of heavyweight ever. This George Foreman's words. Yeah. Who else considered him one of the greatest? There's other names out there
Rockman,
too.
the man that beat him.
Rockman.
Rockman's son said, my father gonna hate me for this, but
he's the greatest.
You can't take it away from him, man.
Right, man.
No,
so someone else,
y'all prove us wrong. That's what we saying.
Somebody gonna say Joe Louis. Joe Louis, in my opinion, arms would have been too short.
He beat Joe Lewis's ass.
Yeah, I mean, I love George. George Lewis was a slick boxer, but I don't think he would have had the tools to beat Lennox Lewis if that was in the same era.
Yeah.
And then
I say,
the size, man, the heavy, they don't understand. A lot of people understand the errors. The heavyweight ever now to then or to even when it was Lennox Lewis was size.
yeah,
Size difference is major. The average heavyweight back then was weighing 205, 210, 215.
yeah. What you think about old George? Not young George.
I think old George would have had a shot, but his
Oh.
jab would have his jab would have been a deciding factor between Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis jabs would have been too sharper, and the right hand would have been much quicker.
And the foot movement would have
Fit
been
movement would have been much
got
quicker.
him over.
Exactly.
But old George was a problem.
Old George was a problem. But old George was really not that big though, as everybody.
Not as you think, right? It's just that
right. You put Lennox would have been bigger than George by about 20 pounds.
Yeah, and that's crazy. Man. That's what I say. That's why I can't go against it because it's the bigger, faster, stronger.
Exactly.
Only problem with somebody like Fury would be resume.
He would be a threat. He'd have been a threat.
Be a threat, but resume wise, it's not really there.
Not the same. Not there for him. Yeah.
It's not. But yeah, that's the only thing. Like, but remember how big Klitschko's were considered. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was like, good gracious.
They tall. It was tall.
Like, how you going to beat them? And then they're even bigger. That's why I say it's bigger, faster, stronger.
Fastest.
Exactly. That's why I'm going to keep bringing this Bridgerweight thing on. Because
it might be needed.
It
might be needed because of
300-pound bammers in boxing.
Right.
And they're going to be sharp as a mug. Like, man.
Right.
That ain't cool, bro.
Yeah, man. You got a point there, man. I know we're going to get a lot of backlash from this segment, but we challenge it hands on, man. Our objective is the only thing we trying to do is give you what our opinions are and what we feel and notice about some things in boxing that the world don't probably see things the way we do. We may be wrong. We might have missed a name that you might say that was greater heavyweight in y'all opinion. And you might have a better facts that you can provide us with that we missed over. But right now, I don't see it. But it's possible. It was some great heavyweights out there. I just feel as though Lennox Lewis has been the most dominant heavyweight that ever boxed in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I like to say, man.
Now, don't get me wrong. Archie Moore, record-wise, Archie Moore had over hundreds of fights, so that's one that you might can throw in the hat and compare in terms of fighting everybody, because Archie Moore didn't duck and dodge nothing either. But the only thing was, it's hard to compare that because of the amount of fights. So I'm gonna throw Archie Moore's name out there as the only one that will probably be you can compare in terms of records and defeats and credibility, because Archie Moore had a lot of fights, and I think to the end of his career, which will diminish his domination. It's because of his age. Archie Moore was very old when he stopped boxing. Old back then was 40 years old. I'm sure was 30 years old was old back then as a boxer, probably. So. Nowadays, these guys can fight to 60, seem like, man.
I think I still got a chance.
Hey, man, technology and science has changed things, man. So, but leave a comment below, man. Sean, anything you got to close with?
If you don't agree with us, leave a comment, man. Click the like button, click the subscribe button. If you want to come up here and to speak your point, man, leave a comment. Let us know. Open for it. We want to have the discussions, man. So,
yes, indeed. Also, the next debate will be about on a panel. We need 2 volunteers that's experts in the sport of boxing, that are willing to get on here and give their top 5 greatest welterweights, starting from 5 to all the way to 1, greatest welterweights of all times. It's going to be me and Sean going to have our list, and 2 other guests will have their list. They'll be on the show Give us your top 5 greatest welterweights of all times. That would be an interesting topic, man. And it's up in the air. So whoever in all eras, pick your 5 greatest welterweights of all time.
Man, Winky, Shane,
Yes, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, the second win, Boxing Media. Peace.